So really quickly, let me just ask you a few questions. Let's kind of go through some background so people know where you are and then like where you are today. You grew up here in Oklahoma, or were you born here?
Yes, on South Side.
Okay.
I was actually born in Corpus Christi, Texas, but we were there for a short time and then moved here. So I grew up south side of town, lived in Dallas during my teenage years, and then I've been back. I swore I would never live out my days in Oklahoma, but somehow I landed here, and I've got 4 kids, so it looks like I'm stuck here for a while.
Yeah, there you go. So did you grow up, you grew up pretty conservative, pretty like far right, kind of religiously, politically, is that right? Is that what your family was like? So,
yep. I don't know if you guys know Crossroads Church on South Side. It was at the time like one of the largest mega churches, I think, in the country. 8,000 people every Sunday morning. So I grew up there, Assembly of God, very conservative. My grandfather was an Assembly of God pastor, so very sheltered. I was in church 5 times a week.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Purity culture.
Oh, yeah.
All that stuff.
And I was all about it. I mean, I did all the things. Missionettes. I was the youngest missionette to ever be crowned. I was like 12 years old. If any of you know missionettes and Royal Rangers, it was a little,
if you don't, you're welcome.
A little bit cultish.
Thank you for, you are welcome that your life is okay.
That's very true. Bible quiz. I was Bible quiz superstar.
Oh, yeah, like the sword drills and stuff like that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I could quote Galatians, Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, and Philemon by like the age of 10. Like from start to finish.
Yeah.
I was so intense about it, yeah.
I didn't even do that.
So.
So your granddad was a pastor, but you're not a pastor. Your dad wasn't a pastor, or mom, were they? But were they ever in the ministry, or were they like deacons and like all that kind of stuff?
All the things except for the pastor. Yes.
Yeah. So you were in church all the time. You knew. So did you like? Did you do like all the? Because Lindy did this too. It's already kind of. She was South Side, and she did it, but she was like hardcore into the DARE was the DARE, like the anti-drinking, and then abortion. Like she would hold up signs and go do the abortion clinics and stuff. Did you did all that? Okay. That's great.
I know.
Who else is feeling weird right now? So talk to me about, and you can go back, but like now you're married to Jonathan Martin, right? This is a guy who has in his, like a lot of people know his story because he's written books, right? Here's a guy who's deconstructed. He came from very, very conservative, just like you're saying. Like he was Assembly of God too, right? He was Church of God and
similar,
Pentecostal.
but a little different.
But, yeah. So, but here's a guy who like deconstructed. He's still struggling with like a lot of family members, and his past are still like more right or very far right. And here's this guy who's now liberal, progressive, and opening this thing up. So, but you're married to that person. So obviously something happened in your life that said that you were going in a trajectory. And then, so what happened? Like, where did it start to maybe break down? Or was there an event that said, I'm going to kind of question all of this, and I'm doubting this, and I'm going to, or was it a quick thing? Was it a heavy deal? Was it a traumatic experience? Or did it happen over time for you?
Well, it happened on 2 different levels, kind of during 2 different times. I think 2016 was, for a lot of us, kind of a catalyst for some of it, but it had been happening for me several years prior to that. Okay. I had my own shipwreck season. I was married 14 years, had 3 girls, and it was a very nasty, messy divorce. I don't talk about this a lot publicly, but in the throes of that, I got into another relationship to kind of cope. Ended up getting pregnant and had a shotgun marriage, and it was like shipwreck 1, shipwreck 2 followed very closely. And I was such a rule follower. I mean, I grew up just being who I was expected to be. It wasn't really who I was, but it was who I was expected to be. So I became that, and I followed all the rules, and I did all the things. So this was just, everyone's disappointed in me. My family, my parents, it was like ego death was like that, because there was nothing left. So everything fell apart for me personally, and I know for a lot of people, that breaks them either down or open. I mean, it broke me down for sure before it broke me open.
Wow.
But I had the privilege of coming across just very trusted, wise guides who were still in the faith, because it wasn't like I was trying to walk away from it all, even though I did spend many nights in atheist chat rooms, just trying to figure out if this is where I'm going now, because I don't know if I can be a good Christian anymore. But I came across people like Jonathan, and I read How to Survive a Shipwreck, and I still say to this day that book saved my life.
Wow.
I mean, it absolutely saved my life. He very much spoke the language of my soul. Both come from very charismatic backgrounds.
Yeah.
So coming across him, people like Brian Zond, Sarah Bessey, I was like, oh, there are more progressive Christians who haven't walked away from it all. And I didn't know that world existed at the time.
Yeah.
I was just very, very evangelical culture. And so finding them, it was just like a life raft. So I started reading them and started to kind of change, I mean, it was just like mind blown, just everything expanded for me.
Yeah.
And then 2016 happened, and I remember I was sitting there that morning holding Kingston, who was newborn, and I was like, okay, this is a completely different world today. I knew everything was going to change, and it did, but I looked around, it was like this, my entire world that I grew up in, they have co-signed this. I remember when the Access Hollywood tape came out, I was like, oh, well, surely now people are gonna be like, we can't vote for this person, and they doubled down. And so it was a shattering for me personally, and then it was a shattering of all the constructs, everyone who I had believed in, who had formed me. So I'm like, I don't know what to think about anything anymore. So it was kind of a double whammy. And honestly, like I would change things. Obviously, people were hurt. I would never want my kids to have to go through what I can't look at them, I'll start crying, what they went through, but I would never be the person I am now. I would never have this beautiful life, this vibrant faith. The way that I have come to see Jesus is so much more beautiful than anything that I grew up with, and so I wouldn't go back. I wouldn't go back to the person I was before, even though everyone thought I was the perfect girl. That shattering needed to happen for me. Because it opened me up to everything that's real and true about my life now. So
I love what you said about it breaking down and breaking open. And there's not, and maybe some of you have experienced this, and there's, just because we're broken down doesn't mean that we'll be broken open, right? So explain maybe just quickly how you see the difference of that, being broken down, being broken open.
Well, I don't know who it is that said there's two things that causes change: great love, great
Richard
pain.
Rohr.
It's Father Rohr, probably. Half the things I say are probably from
Right.
Father Rohr.
He's the greatest.
But I've seen that pain can cause one of two things. It can shut people down. They become very bitter. They become very closed off. And I went through that for a season.
Sure.
But I think it was just coming across certain people and just holding on to words and to stories of people who had gone through similar things, and of course Jonathan's ministry, that really saved my life, and it caused that. And I do look at people sometimes and I wonder, what do they need to help them break open from pain instead of down, instead of being closed off and bitter? I'm not quite sure. That's just a question I'm always wrestling with when I'm dealing with other people and hearing other people's stories. For me, I just feel very fortunate that I came across the right people, I had the right input, to where it just, everything blew open, it expanded. I just felt this great love and acceptance because before that it was like, I was very good at categorizing, like who's in and who's out is everything in evangelical culture. And so it was just always trying to parse, and who can I get close to? Who can I really love? Who can I accept? They've got to meet all these criteria. And after that, it was just like the love for the world. And then even the people who had hurt me. I mean, I just have this great compassion for, I went through sexual abuse and a lot of things. And it was just like, I just felt like I had a revelation of the Father's heart for even those people. And I would have never, I would have never experienced that if I hadn't fallen on my face. So.
It's interesting to me that so much, like you and I grew up very similarly, Jonathan, and a lot of us in this room, and it's interesting to me how that evangelicalism and the far right part of it, the high control kind of part of it, is so, we were talking about this the other day with Danny and Landon and Lindy, and I went to lunch yesterday. And we're talking about like high control. It's like certainty is like the highest goal in that group, right? In those groups. It's like everything has to be, like you were saying, like we know who's in, we know who's out, we know who we can be friends with, we know like if we're dating that person, then we're unequally yoked. We know the language, man. We know, bad company corrupts good morals. We know the stuff. And it's amazing to me though that certainty actually, and trying to maintain certainty, I think like just crumbles us, it implodes us from the inside out. And it's like, I've never been more free than now that I just love everybody. Like it's okay to just like look at someone and say, oh, they're, I don't like how they drive, but I still love them. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like, I don't have to categorize this with certainty. Is that, so you've talked about, we talked a little bit in texting, and you talked about second half of life stuff, which is very much Richard Rohr also. Yeah. So is that, what are some of the big differences, like besides like certainty or in and out, that now that you're in kind of second half of life, well, maybe explain second half of life and what that means to you and how you've experienced that and what that's done for you.
Yeah, I think growing up, I was born very mouthy and loud and kind of rebellious and like everything that's the opposite of what a girl is supposed to be. And so, but during that time, it was like the face of Jesus was always pure delight. Like it was very clear to me. I never questioned it. I didn't do anything for it. Just was what it was. And then I feel like that sort of religion, which I mean, I know sometimes you can call it first half of life religion, but I mean, to me, it's just kind of toxic spirituality. Yeah. It was just, it was more weights like put around my neck. Like everything about you is inherently wrong. It's like sin nature. You need to kill it. You need to become this Proverbs 31 woman. You need to shut your mouth. You need to get married and have babies. And then we were into this whole weird thing. I don't know if any of you know John Bevere, but he had this teaching that was like, if you miss your particular calling, when you get to heaven, if you get there at all, like you're going to have less crowns and less mansions and like you're going to be at the back of the line. And I was terrified by this.
You're going to live in the crappy neighborhood of heaven?
Yeah. Like if you were supposed to be a doctor and you became a teacher, for example, you missed it. Doesn't matter if like you're doing something good and doing it for the glory of God, like you missed the thing. So I was always terrified. I wanted to be a brain surgeon. But then I was like, well, what if I'm supposed to be in the ministry? So I just went to Rhema and I became a minister. Because it's like, well, surely if I go into the ministry, I can't miss it. So I'll have all my crowns when I when I get to heaven. This is actually what was taught. Yeah. So I was very paranoid all the time. I was very self-important because that kind of spirituality, like, you're going to save the world, or your church is going to save the world, and it's just all very angsty, and it's also stressful when you're constantly sorting like who's in and out and who's the world that you need to shun, stay away from, so you keep yourself pure. But over time, all of those things, it was like the face of God, that delight, just started to get very fuzzy. It was just all these weights around my neck all the time, and becoming this person that fit the script. And so I kind of shut myself down entirely. So when all that got blown apart, of course, talk about Father Rohr, I read Falling Upward shortly after I read Shipwreck. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this thing is happening to me. I had no language for it, but that's what it is. And everything was, I don't know, it was blowing open, but it was getting deeper. It was getting calmer, like more still. It was like less angsty. I love that section. I think it's Aldous Huxley from Island. It's the lightly, darling, lightly, like carry everything lightly instead of so angsty all the time. Yeah. And I felt like I was moving into that kind of spirituality. But I think that for me, the main thing is it was a return to who I really was, like who God made me. Yeah. So authenticity became everything. And I was like, I don't care if it's messy or who approves. Like, I've been rejected by everyone anyway, so I might as well be myself now. And it's funny, I talk a lot about authenticity, and the last time I was on Jonathan's podcast, we posted a clip of it online, and people were like, I love the girl with hair extensions and fake nails and fake eyelashes, loves to talk about authenticity. I was like, I am in on the joke.
You're like,
I'm
I'm aware.
Listen, we have Dolly Parton. She is my excuse for everything. Like, this is a
Yes.
real girl who is nothing about her is real. So
Yeah.
she's
But she is yet the most real person
exactly,
ever, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
so it's been done
I'm
before.
so glad you said that. Oh, I'm so glad you said that. That's beautiful.
So, yeah, but I do value that now. So nothing that I do, nothing that I say, nothing I'm a part of isn't because I want to be. Nothing is forced, nothing is coerced. And so in this crazy time of where everything is so heavy in the way we engage the world, that kind of spirituality that I think only second half of life spirituality can really give you, puts your soul in enough rest to where you can engage those things from a healthier place and you can be effective. And so I'm really grateful that that we're all going through this now in a place like this where we're not, trying to figure out like who's the world that we need to be, standing against or whatever, but it's just arms and hands wide open. We don't have to worry about those things. We don't have to be angsty about our theology or the rapture or any of that nonsense.
Yes.
We just be about the work.
Satanic panic.
Yeah.
See Satan behind everything.
Yep.
Don't watch.
Trying to figure out exactly where we are in the.
I couldn't watch the Smurfs,
Oh yeah, I couldn't watch.
I couldn't watch Smurfs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they do. If you didn't grow up in this thing, it's like you couldn't do the Smurfs because why? Because they did witchcraft, right?
Yep.
Papa Smurf was like doing all this witchcraft.
I led like CD burnings in my youth group. Like I was the girl who I led worship for years, and I had a worship team handbook that was like rules of things you couldn't do, or I'd kick you off the team. So we had this really amazing bass player that I found out he went to a Creed concert, like Creed, and I kicked him off the team.
Arms wide open. But isn't Creed Christian?
We
but
didn't
not
think so,
good.
Really.
He wasn't the good kind of Christian.
We had like one toe in, the world, and so we weren't going to be about that. But
Oh man.
I still have like trauma from knowing what I did to these kids. Like
I know,
all
right?
my rules. Yeah, but we do that regularly. I have CD burnings and all the things. But yeah.
I repent all the time of things I did back in first half of life, spirituality. Let me ask you this question, because you've talked about. You talked about being a disappointment or at least feeling, or maybe people literally saying that to you from your family and friends because you weren't the good girl that stayed married. You weren't saying that you got in weird relationships. You did things that was outside of the bounds of what good girls that are Christian girls do.
Yeah.
So you were a disappointment. You let these people down, right? So now as you've kind of come to this opening and realize, and you're now, it's like I feel like this is like and Richard Bowles talks about this all the time. It's like everyone has a coming out story, right? Even if you're not LGBTQ, like coming out just means I am authentically being myself now. And so you've talked about that. That's kind of where you are now. But I'm going to venture to guess that you still have people in your family and in your life that are still disappointed in you.
Oh yeah.
Because now you went through I disappointed people, but that was because I wasn't really who I was. But now that you're saying this is who I really am, are they all supportive of that? No. I have a feeling they're not.
No.
So what's that like when you're like, okay, well, the disappointment happened because I wasn't who I was supposed to be.
Yeah.
But now you are being authentically who you know that God has made you to be. But there's still disappointment, right? So how do you deal with that kind of disappointment when you're like, oh, but they really have a problem with me being authentically me. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that there's some of us that are like, oh, if I'm going to be my real self now and everybody's going to be on board.
Oh, no.
That doesn't happen, does it, all the time?
And that's another, I think it's part of like the ego death of really letting go. And that's hard when it's family. It's hard when it's people that you admire and respect.
Yeah.
But it was like, my crashing and burning was, as it happens with everyone who fakes it half their life and tries to become someone they're not, it doesn't end anywhere good. And that was so painful, and I was so miserable for so long that I would never go back there. I would never go back to having everyone's approval if it meant I wasn't being who I was called to be. So now the constant thing is like, why can't she just shut her mouth? And it's like, I wasn't shutting my mouth when I came out of the womb. Like, why?
Right, yeah.
Why do you think that's a healthy version of me? So,
Yeah.
so no, I mean, I subvert that a lot of times. I mean, I'm a little bit rebellious by nature, so it doesn't really bother me when people, you know.
But I guess that's the difference, right? Is that when you have this internal kind of knowing of who you are, then those things, even though they could still hurt a little bit or they're disappointing, it's like, hey, but I know who I am. I'm on solid ground here, right?
And yes, and I think that face of delight that I always, like, whoever God is, whoever Jesus is, it's this you know, that childhood knowing, that image that I had is that I have that now. Like that's who Jesus is to me now. I wouldn't trade anything.
Yeah,
you know?
that's so cool.
It's clear. I don't have all the baggage that's clouding that image. And it's like, if ever one of my family is like, she's off her rocker, and it's like, well, Jesus is great. Jesus and I are great.
Yeah, there you go.
My kids, they're, we're all very close. I will have to say, I wouldn't be in this place now, able to live this free and open if it weren't for Jonathan. I mean, when you marry your spiritual guru,
we don't all get to marry our Jonathans, you know what I'm saying?
No,
like,
I know.
That's the life story, right? It's like, hey, find someone that you really love, make sure that they're single, and you can marry them, and then you got it set for a while, right?
Yeah. So yeah, he's just my kind of other half partner in crime, and
I love that.
He challenges me, but obviously it's second half of life love is where it's at.
Yeah.
So I feel very blessed.
Yes, and so let me say that is there anything that out of this conversation and being here today and being able to share about your life and your own expansion and opening, is there anything that you would like to say that you're like, oh, I hope that I get to say this, or I hope I get to leave this thought, or I've asked it like this before to other people. It's like, if there's anything you want to say to your younger self, or anything, a nugget of wisdom that you would want to leave us with, what would you like to say if you haven't gotten to say it already? Is there anything that you would want to leave us with?
I don't mean this prescriptive, or like I'm up here giving advice, because this is maybe one of the most challenging things for me right now on a daily basis. It's a very crazy time to have any sort of stability about anything. Everything is changing. There's too much information. Everything feels frantic, chaotic. It's hard to know where to land. Like, you're trying to live this life of faith. You're trying to live a cross-shaped life and be Jesus in the world. But what does that look like right now? How political can we be? Do we need to stop talking about this in church? And it's difficult to not get sucked into just the world's framework for how to engage all that. So for me, the only way that I can do that is to really protect that still small place inside me, where I really think the whole life of spirituality is to trust God enough to where that place is the sacred place, and it's grounded and it's rooted, and it can hold things lightly, and you don't take yourself too seriously, and you can kind of stay almost like my relationship with Jesus now it's very playful. Like I look back and I'm like, I'm sure he was sitting in the atheist chat rooms next to me, winking at me, and like, my curious little girl is gonna do her thing, and it's fine, and it's not angsty. Yeah. And so there's something about that restful place, and people maintain that all sorts of ways. Coming here on Sunday mornings, I always leave and I feel like that's restored. Being around the right people, pushing into, I love to spend time by myself, and I can be a big loner, and it's really bad for me to do that. I've got to be around community and like-minded people, whether that's, people, all sorts of practices and all sorts of ways, meditation, to kind of maintain that. But I would just challenge you to really protect that place, nurture it, put yourself in places and get practices where that is strengthened, because I don't know any other way we engage this world right now. It's just too it's too hard and it's too chaotic. We can't control anything out there. Like, this is the only thing that we have control over. So it's almost like Jesus and I have this kind of like playful, light relationship, but then I feel like his heart's breaking, my heart's breaking. There's, you know what I mean? So it's not either or. Don't shut that heartbreak out to maintain, you know, that sense of calm. You can do both. I feel like a lot of times in spirituality, it's like presented as an option, like you have to do one or the other, and you don't. I mean, I love the idea of like reaching down as far as you're reaching up, you know, a faith that's very grounded and rooted and in the mess. But also, you know, you can be about higher things and protect that place inside you, and you don't have to choose. So
I love that. I love that.
Easier said than done. I know this is a daily thing that I try to do, because if I don't, then I'm going to become a bitter, mean, nasty person. Which I am still some of the time.
Well, let's give Nicole a thank you, and wonderful. I appreciate you so much.